The shadow arena rose like a twisted metal crown in the crimson desert of Cathar, its jagged spires glinting beneath the twin suns. It was the pride of the Xylosian dictatorship and a nightmare of 1,000 conquered species. Tonight, the arena pulsed with energy as bloodthirsty crowds filled every tier, their anticipation tangible in the hot, dry air. In his luxurious private box, Overlord Zarkin collapsed, temporarily paralyzed but conscious. Eva quickly secured his hands with restraints taken from one of the fallen guards. "This is Commander Rostova, Coalition Special Forces," she spoke into her subdermal communicator. "Primary objective secured. I have Zarkin in custody. Requesting immediate extraction from West Loading Dock." "Copy that, Commander," came the response. "Strike team, moving to your position. ETA, 3 minutes." Eva hauled Zarkin to his feet. "Walk or I drag you," she told him coldly. "Your choice." Hatred burned in the Overlord's eyes, but with his nervous system partially compromised, he had little choice but to comply. Together, they moved through the corridors, Eva navigating the quickest route to the extraction point while avoiding the worst of the fighting. The facility continued to count down to self-destruction, the automated voice now announcing 5 minutes remaining. Emergency evacuation pods launched from various points around the complex, carrying fleeing Xylosian officials and staff away from the doomed structure. They reached the loading dock just as a Coalition assault craft descended, its sleek black hull bearing the insignia of Special Forces. The rear hatch opened to reveal a tactical team in full combat gear, weapons trained on Zarkin. Commander Rostova acknowledged the team leader, a weathered human veteran named HFY. "Cut it a bit close, aren't we? Had to make a few stops along the way," Eva replied, shoving Zarkin toward the waiting soldiers. "The package is intact. So is the data." As Zarkin was secured by the tactical team, Eva turned back to look at the facility. Through the open dock doors, she could see the shadow arena in the distance, its dark silhouette stark against the crimson desert. Already, sections of the complex were beginning to explode as the self-destruct sequence progressed. "Commander, we need to move now," HFY urged. Eva nodded and boarded the craft. The hatch sealed behind her, and the pilot immediately engaged the engines, taking them rapidly away from the disintegrating structure. Inside the compartment, Eva strapped herself into a seat opposite Zarkin. The Overlord's gaze was fixed on her with pure venom. "You planned this from the beginning," he said, his voice a rasp. "Getting captured, the arena fight, all of it." "Not exactly," Eva admitted. "The capture was unfortunate. But once in your system, I had to create an opportunity. Vor was actually quite helpful in that regard." Zarkin's scales darkened further. "The Coalition will gain nothing from this. My operation is but one of many. Others will fill the void." "Perhaps," Eva conceded. "But your client list, transaction records, and shipping manifests will keep us busy for quite some time. The Krell separatists, in particular, will find their supply chain suddenly compromised." Through the craft's viewport, they witnessed the final destruction of the facility. A series of massive explosions tore through the complex, culminating in a blinding flash as the power core detonated. The shadow arena collapsed in on itself, its spires toppling into the desert sand. "A shame," Eva remarked. "Some of those combatants might have been rehabilitated." "You destroyed it," Zarkin accused. "No," Eva corrected him. "You did. Your self-destruct protocol. Your desperation. Your failure." The craft accelerated to escape velocity, breaking through Cathar's atmosphere into open space. Ahead, the sleek profile of a Coalition stealth cruiser waited, its docking bay open to receive them. As they approached the larger vessel, Colonel Haraway handed Eva a secure datapad. "Preliminary analysis of your transmission. High Command is pleased. This will cripple illegal arms trading in 3 sectors." Eva nodded, scanning the information. "What about the other prisoners? Any evacuated?" Strike Team Bravo managed to secure approximately 60% of the detainees, Haraway reported, including all survivors from your transport. "And Commander Rock?" Haraway raised an eyebrow. "The arena overseer? No sign of him. Presumed lost in the explosion. Eva's expression revealed nothing, but inwardly, she wondered if Grok's survival instincts had served him yet again. She suspected they might encounter each other in the future, perhaps under different circumstances. The assault craft docked with the cruiser, and Zarkin was transferred to the brig under heavy guard. Eva made her way to the command deck, where Captain Lena Torres was waiting. "Commander Rostova," Torres greeted her. "Good to have you back among the living. When your transport was hit, we feared the worst. It takes more than a Xylosian raiding party to finish me off," Eva replied with a tired smile. "Though I admit, fighting Vorg wasn't in the mission parameters." Torres chuckled. "The intelligence division is already calling it legendary footage. The day a human took down the Skull Crusher. Quite the psychological victory against Xylosian propaganda." Eva shrugged. "Just doing my job." "Your job was intelligence gathering, not becoming a gladiatorial sensation," Torres pointed out. "But I won't complain about the results." She gestured to a hollow display showing the data being decrypted from Eva's retrieval. "This is the biggest intelligence coup against illegal arms dealers in a decade." Together, they watched as the cruiser broke orbit from Cthar, preparing for the jump to hyperspace. On a secondary screen, news was already spreading through galactic channels about the destruction of the Shadow Arena and the capture of Overlord Zarkin. Speculation ran wild, though the Coalition's involvement remained classified. "What happens now?" Eva asked. "Zarkin faces trial before the Coalition Tribunal," Torres answered. "The evidence you recovered ensures he'll never see freedom again. As for you," she studied Eva with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Mandatory recovery leave, then debriefing with high command." Eva nodded, though the prospect of idleness didn't appeal to her. "Don't give me that look, Rostova," Torres said knowingly. "After what you've been through, even you need rest. Dr. Sanari wants to examine you thoroughly. Apparently, Cronian combat techniques can leave lasting neurological imprints on observers." "I'm fine. That's an order, Commander. 24 hours in medical minimum." Eva conceded with a nod. In truth, the accumulated strain of her mission was beginning to make itself felt. Her muscles ached from the arena combat, and the sustained vigilance of days in hostile territory had taken its toll. As the cruiser's engines prepared for the jump to hyperspace, Eva took one last look at Cthar on the view screen. The red planet was growing smaller, the smoking ruins of the Shadow Arena now just a dark smudge on its surface. "Quite a performance you gave them," Torres commented, following her gaze. Eva's lips curved in a small smile. "Everyone underestimates humans. It's our greatest advantage. And Zarkin's most costly mistake," Torres agreed. The cruiser shuddered slightly as the hyperdrive engaged. Stars stretched into lines, and Cthar vanished as they entered the swirling tunnel of hyperspace. Eva Rostova, Coalition Special Forces commander, finally allowed herself to relax. The mission was complete. Justice, in some small measure, had been served. And somewhere in the galaxy, the legend would spread of the day alien gladiators laughed at a human. Until she stepped into the arena. Reclined on cushions of imported silk, surrounded by sycophants and slaves. His scaled skin shimmered with precious oils, and his ornate armor was studded with gems harvested from depleted mining colonies. At 8 feet tall, with a massive frame, he was an imposing figure even for a Xylosian, a species known for their physical prowess and casual cruelty. "Bore me again tonight, Grok, and I'll feed your entrails to the Tarquan hounds," Zarkin drawled, swirling luminescent blue liquor in a goblet carved from the skull of some vanquished enemy. Commander Grok stiffened but maintained his composure. As Zarkin's right hand and overseer of the Shadow Arena, he had survived longer than most in the Overlord's inner circle, precisely because he knew how to balance entertainment with discretion. "I believe tonight's lineup will satisfy, my lord," Grok replied, his voice modulated to project confidence. Unlike Zarkin, Grok was leaner, his scales darker and bearing the markings of numerous battles. Where Zarkin acted on impulse, Grok calculated each move. The Crangelan Berserker nearly tore a Vorpalian in half yesterday. Zarkin sighed dramatically. Yes, yes. Always the same. Large beast kills slightly smaller beast. I desire something novel. At that moment, a servant approached with a datapad, presenting it to Grok with a trembling hand. Grok scanned the information, his yellow eyes narrowing with interest. Perhaps this might intrigue you, my lord. The raid on the Centauri transport yielded an unusual batch of prisoners. Mostly the typical rabble, but he paused for effect. There's a human among them. A human? Zarkin perked up slightly. Those soft, fragile creatures from that backwater system? What would one be doing this far in the outer rim? Unknown, my lord. But humans are rare enough in this sector to be interesting. Zarkin's lipless mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. Bring it to me. Let's see this curiosity. 20 minutes later, guards dragged a woman into the royal box. She was average in height and build for a human, perhaps in her early 30s by their reckoning. Her dark hair was cut short, practical rather than decorative. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about her, which made her utterly alien among the gathered Xylosians and their gaudy display. Most striking was her composure. While other new captives typically displayed fear, rage, or desperate pleading, the human woman stood calmly, her gray eyes scanning the room with methodical precision. Kneel before Overlord Zarkin. Human filth? Barked a guard, striking the back of her knees with an electrified baton. The woman dropped to one knee, more from practicality than submission. A thin scar traced from her left temple to her jawline, an old injury, long healed. Your name, human? Zarkin demanded, leaning forward with mild curiosity. Eva Rostova, she replied, her voice steady and accent untraceable. And what brings you to my corner of the galaxy, Eva Rostova? Bad luck and worse navigation, she answered with a hint of dry humor that seemed wildly inappropriate for her situation. Zarkin's laugh was like stones grinding together, either very brave or very stupid. I can never tell with your kind. He circled her, examining her as one might a peculiar insect. You don't seem afraid. Fear is rarely productive, Eva replied simply. Zarkin's inner circle exchanged glances. This was not the typical groveling they expected. I find myself in need of entertainment, Zarkin announced suddenly. Tomorrow night, we shall have something special for our arena patrons. He turned to Grok. Put her in the main event. Grok's scales shifted color slightly, the Xylosian equivalent of raised eyebrows. Against whom, my lord? Vorg, Zarkin said with malicious delight. Vorg the Skull Crusher. A murmur ran through the assembled elite. Vorg was the undefeated champion of the Shadow Arena, a four-armed Cronian whose towering frame and legendary brutality had ended the lives of over 300 combatants from dozens of species. My lord, Grok began carefully, while novel, the match may be brief, perhaps too brief to satisfy the crowd's appetite for. Exactly, Zarkin interrupted. They'll come expecting the usual bloodbath, but begin with comedy. The human will be crushed in seconds, but it will amuse me to see the crowd's reaction. Their disappointment will make the following matches seem all the more thrilling by comparison. He turned back to Eva. What do you say, human? Ready to die for the pleasure of your betters? Eva locked eyes with the tyrant, her expression neutral save for the slightest twitch at the corner of her mouth. Everyone dies eventually, Overlord. The question is what they accomplish first. Zarkin's laughter boomed across the chamber. Take her away. Let be announced throughout Cthar. Tomorrow night, Vorg faces a human. As guards dragged her from the royal chamber, Eva caught Grok studying her with an intensity that suggested more than casual curiosity. News of the upcoming slaughter spread rapidly through the arena complex and beyond. Betting pools opened immediately, though not on whether the human would win. That was considered impossible, but rather on how many seconds she would survive before Vorg ended her life. In the prisoners' holding area, a labyrinth of cells beneath the arena floor, Eva was thrown into a communal chamber housing a dozen diverse aliens awaiting their turn in the arena. Most were hardened criminals or captured warriors, their bodies marked with scars and crude prison tattoos. The chamber was Spartan, stone benches along the walls, a single water source in the center, and surveillance drones hovering near the ceiling. A hulking Draxian with ridged bone plates along his spine laughed as Eva entered. "Look what they've sent us. A human snack before we all die. I heard they're putting her against Vorg," chittered a multi-limbed Krell. "They must really hate her species." Eva ignored them, finding an unoccupied corner where she sat cross-legged, back against the wall, eyes half closed but clearly alert. For the next several hours, she remained there, seemingly meditating but actually absorbing every detail. The guard rotation schedule, the 7-second blind spot in drone surveillance when they synced with the central system, the loose panel near the water station that suggested recent maintenance, the subtle hierarchies among the prisoners. One guard in particular caught her attention, younger than the others, with a slight limp and a tendency to check his communications device when he thought no one was watching. His posture suggested military training, but his eyes held something resembling reluctance when prisoners were mistreated. When food was delivered, unidentifiable nutrient paste in biodegradable containers, the largest prisoner, a tusked Gorvin, snatched Eva's portion. "Humans need to eat too," she said without rising. "You'll be dead tomorrow." "Waste of rations," the Gorvin grunted. Eva tilted her head slightly. "Your right tusk is cracked at the base. One solid hit there would drive bone fragments into your frontal lobe. Instant death if you're lucky. Permanent vegetation if you're not." The chamber went silent. The Gorvin's eyes widened, his hand instinctively moving to the barely visible fracture in his tusk. "How did you?" "Observation," Eva replied mildly. "Just as I've observed that your species has a tertiary circulatory system that makes traditional strikes to vital organs ineffective. That's why you survived your last 3 arena matches despite taking wounds that would kill most others." The Gorvin stared at her, then slowly set the food container beside her. "Who are you, human?" Eva smiled slightly. "Just someone with bad luck and worse navigation." Later that night, as most prisoners slept fitfully, Commander Grok appeared with 2 guards. He dismissed them with a gesture after they had opened the cell door. "The human. With me." Eva rose smoothly and followed him into a narrow corridor. Instead of taking her to an interrogation room, as she expected, Grok led her to a small observation deck overlooking the main arena. In the dim emergency lighting, the empty fighting pit looked almost peaceful. "Tomorrow, that sand will be soaked with your blood," Grok stated matter-of-factly. "I've seen thousands die in that circle. Some with courage, some with cowardice, all with the same result." Eva said nothing, studying the arena's layout. Dimensions, obstacle placements, entry points, the slight incline toward the center for drainage. "You're not a typical human," Grok continued. "Your file from the transport manifest lists you as a commercial navigator. Yet you carry yourself like a warrior. You speak like someone educated far beyond your station, and you show no fear before certain death. Perhaps humans have evolved since your last encounter with our kind," Eva suggested. Grok's scaled lips twitched. "Or perhaps you are not what you claim to be." He gestured toward the arena. "Vorg has killed 322 opponents. 17 of them were humans. The longest lasted 26 seconds. Sounds like he's due for a loss," Eva remarked. For the first time, something like genuine amusement flickered across Grok's features. "Interesting. You know, Vorg has one weakness. He always leads with his upper right arm when starting a combination attack. A pattern I've observed over 67 matches." Eva turned to look at him directly. "Why tell me this? Perhaps I appreciate the novelty of your confidence. Perhaps I wish to see Zarkin's reaction if you last more than the expected few seconds." He paused. "Or perhaps I simply wish to honor a doomed warrior with a truth, however useless it may be against a foe 4 times your strength and twice your size." "I appreciate the advice," Eva said. Grok studied her a moment longer. "You should know that Vorg's species, the Cronians, have reinforced cartilage instead of bone. Attempting to break their limbs requires 3 times the force needed for most humanoids." With that cryptic addition, he summoned the guards and had Eva return to her cell. In the pre-dawn hours, while the other prisoners slept, Eva began a series of subtle exercises. To an observer, It might have appeared she was merely stretching, but each movement was precise, focusing on specific muscle groups, joint mobility, and neurological response patterns. As she moved through the sequence, her mind drifted to a memory. The rain had been relentless that day at the remote training facility on Earth. Eva, then 22, stood soaked and exhausted before her instructor. Again, the older woman commanded, her weathered face showing no sympathy. "The target is impossible," Eva had protested. "He's twice my size, and I'm exhausted. You think the field cares if you're tired? You think your enemies will wait until you've had a good night's sleep?" The instructor circled her. "Size, strength, technological advantage. These mean nothing if you understand two fundamental principles: leverage and observation. I've been observing for hours. He doesn't have a weakness. Everything has a weakness. Not observing enough is your weakness." 3 hours later, Eva had finally succeeded, using the mud-slick training ground to her advantage against a much larger opponent. It wasn't strength that won the day, but precision and timing. Back in the present, Eva completed her exercise routine and began to meditate, controlling her breathing to maximize oxygen efficiency in her bloodstream. Whatever happened in the arena, she would be ready. The Shadow Arena erupted with sound as the twin suns reached their zenith. 80,000 spectators filled the stands, Xylosians and representatives from dozens of subjugated or allied species. The air vibrated with their combined voices, the stench of exotic foods and stimulants, and the electric anticipation of bloodshed. Massive screens displayed odds, fighter statistics, and close-up views of notable spectators. Vendors hawked commemorative items, including crude figurines of Vorg and miniature human skulls that could be crushed in one's hand, a morbid prediction of the upcoming main event. In the royal box, Zarkin lounged on his throne, surrounded by courtiers and pleasure slaves. He absently stroked the head of a six-legged creature that coiled around the base of his seat, its eyes reflecting the arena lights. "The preliminary matches bore me already," he complained to Grok. "When does our human comedy begin?" "After 2 more bouts, my lord," Grok replied. "The crowds grow larger by the minute. Word of this unusual match has drawn many who don't typically attend." "Excellent. More witnesses to my creativity." The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Next in the sand, a spectacular mismatch for your betting pleasure. The undefeated, the unstoppable, the undisputed champion of the Shadow Arena. VORG, the Skull Crusher." A massive gate at the north end of the arena rumbled open. Hydraulic jets released steam for dramatic effect as Vorg emerged, his massive frame momentarily filling the entrance. Standing nearly 9 feet tall, the Cronian's 4 heavily muscled arms ended in clawed hands, each holding a different weapon: a serrated blade, a spiked mace, a weighted chain, and a barbed whip. His leathery skin was a patchwork of scars and ritual markings, and his elongated head featured multiple rows of teeth visible through his perpetual snarl. Vorg wore only a battle harness and armored kilt, exposing his torso with its redundant muscle groups and bony protrusions. He stomped to the center of the arena, roaring and brandishing his weapons in a terrifying display that sent the crowd into a frenzy. On the giant screens, his statistics flashed. VORG, the Skull Crusher. Species, Cronian. Wins, 322. Kills, 322. Strength rating, exceptional. Survival probability, 100%. And his opponent, the announcer's voice took on a mocking tone. For the first time in the Shadow Arena, representing the forgettable planet Earth, Eva Rostova. The southern gate opened with considerably less fanfare. Eva walked out calmly, wearing the simple gray jumpsuit provided to all arena combatants. She had been offered no weapons, armor, or equipment. Her bare feet made no sound on the sand. The crowd's reaction evolved from anticipatory silence to scattered laughter, then to a roaring mockery as her image appeared on the screens. Eva Rostova. Species, human. Wins, 0. Kills, 0. Strength rating, negligible. Survival probability, 0.01%. Eva stopped 30 paces from Vorg, standing relaxed with hands at her sides. The contrast between them couldn't have been more pronounced, a study in violent excess facing understated economy of form. In the royal box, Zarkin leaned forward, grinning widely. This is even better than I imagined. She looks so pathetically ordinary. Vorg, playing to the crowd, performed another threatening display, this time directing his roars specifically at Eva. She watched him with the mild interest one might show a street performer. "Begin," the announcer shouted, and a resonant tone echoed through the arena. Vorg charged immediately, all four arms in motion, weapons creating a whirlwind of deadly metal. His speed was shocking for his size, a blur of destructive force closing the distance in seconds. Eva didn't move until the last possible moment. Then, with a subtle shift of weight, she pivoted right, just enough for Vorg's leading attack, with his upper right arm, exactly as Grok had predicted, to miss by centimeters. The momentum of Vorg's missed strike threw him slightly off balance. Eva used this fractional advantage to slide past his guard, staying within the eye of his attack pattern where his longer reach became a disadvantage. Vorg roared in frustration, spinning and lashing out with his barbed whip. Eva ducked under it and rolled across the sand, coming up behind him. The crowd's mocking laughter faltered, replaced by confused murmurs. "What is this?" Zarkin demanded, sitting upright. "Why isn't she dead yet?" Grok maintained his professional demeanor. "It appears the human has some training, my lord. An unexpected development that should prolong your entertainment." For the next several minutes, the fight continued in this vein. Vorg attacking with increasing fury, Eva evading with an economy of movement that made her actions seem almost effortless. She utilized the arena's features brilliantly, using support pillars to block attacks, changing elevation on the slightly banked floor to affect Vorg's balance, and twice causing him to tangle his own weapons. The crowd's mood shifted dramatically. The expected slaughter had transformed into something they'd never seen. A ballet of deadly precision where the smaller combatant made the champion look increasingly foolish. Scattered cheers began to erupt when Eva executed particularly elegant evasions. Vorg's frustration grew visibly with each passing minute. His attacks became more frenzied and less coordinated. Sweat poured from his leathery skin, and his breathing grew ragged. Eva, meanwhile, showed minimal signs of exertion, her movements remaining precise and measured. After a spectacular dodge that sent Vorg crashing into a support pillar, Eva executed a perfect gymnastic flip to create distance. Landing gracefully, she offered Vorg a formal bow, a deliberate mockery that sent the champion into a blind rage. "I will tear your spine from your body," he bellowed, spittle flying from his multiple rows of teeth. Eva smiled for the first time. "You'll have to catch me first." The crowd roared, some in approval of her defiance, others at Vorg's fury. The noise was deafening, the energy electric. In the royal box, Zarkin's amusement had curdled into something darker. "This is not what I wanted," he hissed to Grok. "The human makes a mockery of our champion." "Indeed, my lord," Grok replied neutrally. "Most unexpected." Down in the arena, Eva had begun to notice subtle patterns in Vorg's movements. A slight favoring of his lower left leg, a fraction more rotation in his upper right shoulder socket, suggesting old damage. More importantly, she observed a rhythm to his breathing that indicated the Cronian's cardiovascular system was under strain. After 15 minutes of combat, already the longest match against Vorg in arena history, Eva saw her opportunity. Vorg had backed her toward a corner, seemingly trapping her between two rows of sharpened spikes that protruded from the arena wall. "Nowhere, T.O., run now. Human," he snarled, advancing with all four weapons ready. Eva glanced at the royal box, making brief eye contact with Grok, then returned her focus to Vorg. As the champion launched what he intended to be his finishing combination, Eva timed her move perfectly. She ducked the first swing, sidestepped the second, then, instead of retreating from the third, she stepped into it, entering Vorg's personal space. Before he could react, She delivered a precise strike to a point where his upper right arm connected to his torso, directly on the joint that Grok had obliquely referenced and that she had observed was slightly weakened. The impact was not particularly powerful by Cronian standards, but its placement was perfect. There was an audible pop as the specialized cartilage in Vorg's shoulder joint separated. The champion's roar of rage transformed into a howl of pain as his upper right arm hung suddenly useless, the serrated blade dropping to the sand. Eva didn't pause. Using Vorg's momentary shock, she executed a spinning kick that caught his lower left knee, the one he had been subtly favoring. Again, the force was not exceptional, but the precision was surgical. The joint buckled. Vorg toppled forward, off balance and wounded. As he fell, Eva sidestepped and delivered a final strike, a knife-hand chop to a specific point where his elongated neck met his skull. The neurological cluster located there was unique to Cronian physiology, and the impact sent a paralyzing shock through Vorg's central nervous system. The champion of the Shadow Arena collapsed face-first into the sand, his remaining weapons scattering around him. He wasn't dead. Eva had been precise in her targeting, but he was completely incapacitated, his nervous system temporarily short-circuited. 410 full seconds, absolute silence reigned in the Shadow Arena. 80,000 spectators held their breath, unable to process what they had just witnessed. On the giant screens, Vorg's prone form and Eva's standing one created a tableau that defied all expectations. Eva calmly brushed sand from her hands, then looked directly into the nearest camera. "Next," she asked simply. The arena erupted, a cacophony of shocked exclamations, wild cheering, outraged howls, and the distinct sound of betting terminals processing unprecedented losses. In the royal box, Zarkin stood rigid with fury, his scaled skin darkening to a dangerous purple hue. "Take her," he snarled to his guards. "Secure her in isolation. Now." As arena security converged on the sand, Eva offered no resistance. She had accomplished the first phase of her mission, survived and created chaos. Now the real work would begin. Eva's cell in the high-security isolation block was a stark contrast to the communal holding area. 3 meters square, with smooth metallic walls and a transparent force field instead of traditional bars. Continuous surveillance, no blind spots, and guards positioned at all times. The level of security would have been flattering if it wasn't so inconvenient to her plans. The attitude of everyone, guards, medical personnel who examined her, even the automated systems, had transformed. Where before she had been dismissed as insignificant, now she was treated as an unpredictable threat. Guards maintained strict distance and kept weapons ready. No one spoke to her except to issue commands. 6 hours after the match, Commander Grok arrived. He dismissed the guards to the corridor outside, though Eva noted they remained within earshot. "Impressive performance," he said without preamble. 322 combatants tried what you accomplished. All failed. Eva sat cross-legged on the floor of her cell. "I had good intelligence. A single observation about Vorg's attack pattern doesn't explain how you identified and exploited weaknesses in Cronian physiology that aren't common knowledge." Grok's yellow eyes narrowed. "Even I didn't know about the neurological cluster at the base of their skull. I'm observant. You're something else entirely." Grok deactivated the force field and entered the cell, reactivating it behind him, a calculated risk that communicated his confidence. "Zarkin is displeased. The betting syndicates lost fortunes. Several high-ranking Xylosians who wagered heavily against you are demanding explanations." "Sounds like a personal problem." Grok made a sound that might have been laughter. "You're either very brave or courting execution." He studied her. "Zarkin has ordered a complete investigation into your background. The manifest data from your transport is being verified. Your genetic profile is being compared against known databases." Eva kept her expression neutral, though internally she noted the escalation. Her cover identity would hold against standard checks, but a deep investigation would eventually raise flags. "While that process unfolds," Grok continued, "Zarkin has decided you will fight again. Tomorrow night, a special event with enhanced stakes. Let me guess. Multiple opponents? Environmental hazards? Poison darts from the walls? Eva's tone remained conversational. Two elite Xylosian royal guards, both armed with electro spears and neural disruptors, both with military combat training. Grok watched her reaction carefully. Zarkin will accept nothing less than your death this time. Eva nodded thoughtfully. Sounds challenging. It's meant to be impossible, Grok corrected. And to ensure you have no advantages, you'll be fitted with stimulus limiters, devices that dull reflexes and reduce strength by approximately 30%. Now, that's just poor sportsmanship. Grok moved closer, lowering his voice. You are playing a dangerous game, human. Whatever your purpose here, whatever agenda you're pursuing, you've attracted the kind of attention that ends in execution. Eva finally stood, matching Grok's intensity. Tell me, Commander, how long have you served Zarkin? The question seemed to surprise him. 22 cycles, since before he was Overlord. And in those 22 cycles, have you ever questioned the nature of his rule? The corruption, the trafficking operations, the weapons deals with outlawed factions? Grok's scales shifted color slightly, the only indication he was affected by her words. You speak of things you couldn't possibly know. I know Zarkin uses the arena as a cover for moving illegal weapons technology across restricted borders. I know he's been selling quantum destabilizers to the Krell separatists despite the Galactic Coalition's embargo. I know that you, Commander, have been skimming 10% off those deals for the past 3 cycles. Grok's hand moved to his weapon, then stopped. Who are you? He asked, his voice barely audible. Eva stepped closer. Someone who can offer you a choice when this all comes crashing down, which it will very soon. Before Grok could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing, and the complex's automated system announced, security breach in sectors 7, 12, and 15. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Grok's communicator buzzed urgently. He activated it. Report. Commander. The voice was panicked. We're under attack. Coalition special forces have breached the outer perimeter. Multiple insertion points, military-grade weapons. They've already taken the south quadrant. Grok's expression hardened as he looked at Eva. This is your doing. Eva shrugged. Bad timing for Zarkin. Worse navigation for you, unless you make the right choice. Explosions rocked the complex, close enough to shower dust from the ceiling. The force field protecting Eva's cell flickered as power fluctuated. Grok studied her for a heartbeat longer, then made his decision. He deactivated the force field. The evidence storage facility is 3 levels down, southeast quadrant. Security code 9271 Alpha Thorn. Everything you're looking for is there. Eva nodded. Smart choice. I'm not doing this for you or your coalition, Grok clarified. Zarkin's greed has made us vulnerable. His operations have grown sloppy. It was only a matter of time. What will you do? What I've always done, survive. He checked his weapon. Now go. We never had this conversation. Eva moved to the cell entrance, but paused. The guards outside will be otherwise occupied. Grok activated his communicator again. Security team Epsilon 6, report to the royal chambers immediately. Priority Alpha. The guards outside acknowledged and rushed away. Grok gave Eva one final look. 20 seconds head start. Make them count. Eva didn't waste a moment. The moment Grok exited in the opposite direction, she moved swiftly through the now unguarded corridor. The facility was in chaos. Emergency protocols had sealed certain sections while opening others to allow personnel movement. Alarms continued to blare, and distant weapons fire echoed through the structure. She navigated from memory, having mentally mapped the complex's layout during her initial captivity and subsequent transfer. Where necessary, she disabled security cameras or created distractions to avoid detection. Twice she encountered Xylosian guards, but in both cases, the ongoing attack meant they were focused on external threats rather than escaped prisoners. Eva reached a maintenance shaft that would allow access to the lower levels. As she prepared to descend, her left hand moved to her right forearm, pressing firmly on a specific point. A small section of synthesized skin retracted, revealing a subdermal implant, a quantum communicator no larger than a grain of rice. She tapped it twice, sending a prearranged signal to her extraction team. Asset mobile, proceeding TO objective. 3 levels down, the fighting was more intense. Coalition Special Forces had penetrated this deep into the facility and were engaged with Xylosian security in several areas. Eva used the distraction to move undetected toward the southeast quadrant. The evidence storage facility was protected by a heavy security door with both biometric and code systems. Eva examined it briefly, then located a maintenance panel nearby. With practiced efficiency, she bypassed the primary security and rerouted the biometric scanner to accept any organic input. When the code panel activated, she entered the sequence Grok had provided, 9271 Alpha Thorn. The massive door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside was a treasure trove of contraband, seized items, and most importantly, evidence. Rack upon rack of data storage devices, cataloged weapons, financial records, and communication logs. Everything the Galactic Coalition needed to dismantle not just Zarkin's operation, but the entire network of illegal arms dealing in the sector. Eva moved quickly, locating the central data core. She produced a specialized transfer device from beneath the lining of her jumpsuit, one of several tools she had managed to keep concealed from her captors. The device connected to the system and began downloading encrypted files while simultaneously leaving behind a virtually undetectable virus that would transmit ongoing intelligence to Coalition networks. As the download neared completion, an explosion rocked the corridor outside. The security door slammed shut automatically, emergency protocols sealing the evidence room. Eva cursed under her breath, working faster to complete the data extraction. The terminal signaled completion just as the facility's announcement system warned. Self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately. 15 minutes to complete destruction. Eva retrieved her device and moved to the door, quickly assessing her options. The regular exit was sealed by emergency protocols, but a ventilation shaft in the ceiling offered an alternative. Using storage racks as a makeshift ladder, she accessed the shaft and began crawling through the narrow space. The ventilation system was a maze, but periodic emergency guidance lights provided enough illumination to navigate. Eva moved with purpose, heading toward the extraction point she had memorized during her mission briefing, a secondary loading dock in the facility's west wing. As she neared her destination, a section of the shaft gave way beneath her, sending her crashing through a ceiling panel and onto the floor of a corridor. She rolled with the impact, coming up ready for confrontation. Before her stood Overlord Zarkin himself, surrounded by 4 elite guards. His face was contorted with rage, scales darkened to nearly black. "The human," he snarled. "I should have had you executed immediately." Eva assessed the situation rapidly. Zarkin and his guards blocked the path to her extraction point. Behind her, the corridor led deeper into the facility, away from escape. The self-destruct countdown continued, now under 10 minutes. "It's over, Zarkin," she said calmly. "The Coalition has everything they need. Your operation is finished." "Perhaps," Zarkin conceded, his voice deadly quiet. "But you won't live to see it." He gestured to his guards. "Kill her." Slowly, the 4 Xylosian warriors advanced, weapons ready. They moved with coordinated precision that confirmed their elite status. Eva didn't wait for them to surround her. She charged directly at the nearest guard, sliding beneath his strike and using his momentum to throw him into another. In the same fluid motion, she disarmed a third, claiming his electro spear and using it to disable the 4th with a precision strike to his armor's power coupling. The fight was brief but intense. Eva moved like water, never directly opposing the superior strength of the Xylosians, but redirecting their force against them. Within 60 seconds, all 4 guards were incapacitated. Zarkin stood alone, his expression transformed from rage to disbelief. "What are you?" he demanded. "Just someone with bad luck and worse navigation," Eva replied, advancing toward him. Zarkin drew a concealed energy weapon, an illegal quantum destabilizer of his own merchandise. "Stay back," he ordered, the weapon humming as it charged. Eva didn't slow her approach. "That model has a power fluctuation issue in the secondary containment field. Fire it now, and the backwash will vaporize you too." Uncertainty flickered across Zarkin's features. Eva used that hesitation to close the final distance between them. The Overlord swung the weapon like a club, but Eva easily dodged, delivering a precise strike to his wrist that sent the destabilizer clattering to the floor. "The Coalition doesn't want you dead, Zarkin," Eva said as she circled him. "They want you to stand trial, to answer for the weapons that killed millions, the species enslaved for your arena, the colonies destroyed by your greed. I am beyond your Coalition's laws." Zarkin roared, launching himself at her with surprising speed. Eva sidestepped his charge and used his momentum to send him crashing into the wall. Before he could recover, she applied pressure to specific points on his neck, another physiological vulnerability she had studied before the mission. Zarkin